I'm Marcus Chun, 32 years old, and for most of my life I was the family disappointment. Not because I failed at anything, but because I chose a different path than the one my parents had mapped out. My older brother Derek is 35. He's everything my parents wanted in a son. Business degree from UT Austin. MBA from Rice. Corporate job at a Fortune 500 company in Dallas. Country club membership. The right car. The right neighborhood. The right everything. I graduated with a degree in urban planning and went to work for the city of Austin. Government job. Modest salary. Small apartment. I drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic while Derek drove a Tesla Model S. At family dinners, the conversation always centered on Derek. His latest promotion. His investment portfolio. His vacation to the Cayman Islands. When anyone asked about me, my mother would sigh and say, "Marcus works for the city. It's steady work." The tone said everything. Steady meant boring. Safe meant unambitious. Government meant I'd settled for less. My father rarely asked about my job at all. He'd just shake his head slightly whenever I mentioned anything about zoning regulations or affordable housing initiatives, as if I'd chosen to study underwater basket weaving instead of something practical. But there was one person who never made me feel small. My grandfather, William Chin. Grandpa Bill, as I called him, was a quiet man who'd built his wealth slowly and deliberately. He'd immigrated from Taiwan in 1967 with $200 and an engineering degree that American companies initially wouldn't recognize. So he worked construction, saved every penny, bought his first duplex in Houston in 1972. By the time I was born, he owned 9 rental properties across Texas, 3 duplexes in Houston, 2 fourplexes in Austin, and 4 single-family homes in San Antonio. Nothing flashy. All solid, well-maintained properties in good neighborhoods. The kind of real estate that generated steady income and appreciated consistently. Derek never had much time for Grandpa Bill. He was too busy climbing the corporate ladder, too important for Sunday dinners at Grandpa's modest ranch house outside Austin. He'd show up for major holidays, spend the entire time on his phone dealing with urgent work matters, and leave early. I was different. Every Sunday, I'd drive to Grandpa's place. We'd work on his properties together, fixing leaky faucets, repainting trim, replacing worn carpet. He taught me everything about real estate. How to evaluate a property. How to screen tenants. How to maintain buildings so they lasted decades instead of years. Real wealth isn't about looking rich, he'd tell me while we replaced a water heater in one of the Houston duplexes. It's about building assets that work for you while you sleep. Derek drives a fancy car, but that car loses value the second he drives it off the lot. This building? It'll be worth more in 10 years than it is today. We'd have lunch together every Sunday. Chinese food from his favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurant in Austin. He'd ask about my work, genuinely interested in the housing policies I was studying, the zoning challenges I was trying to solve. "You're thinking about how to house people," he said once. "That's honorable work, Marcus. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." In 2019, Grandpa Bill's health started declining. Congestive heart failure. The doctors gave him 2 years, maybe 3. One afternoon in September 2019, he called me to his house. Just me. Not Derek. Not my parents. We sat in his study, the same room where he'd managed his properties for 40 years. Filing cabinets full of tenant records and maintenance logs. A desk covered with property tax statements and insurance documents. "I need to talk to you about something important," he said. He pulled out a folder. Inside were quitclaim deeds for all 9 properties. Blank signature lines. Notary stamps ready. "I'm transferring everything to you," he said simply. I stared at him. "Grandpa, I can't. Derek is the oldest. Mom and Dad would." "Derek has never changed a light bulb in any of these buildings," Grandpa Bill interrupted. "Your mother and father think real estate is beneath them. They want dividends and stock options, not tenants and toilets. But you understand what I built. You know the value of physical assets. You know how to maintain them. But the family will assume Derek gets everything because he's the oldest son. Let them assume. You and I know the truth. That's enough." He slid the documents across the desk. These are quitclaim deeds. Legal transfer of ownership. We'll file them with Travis County, Harris County, and Behar County next week. You'll be the owner of record. You'll receive the rental income. You'll pay the property taxes. You'll make all decisions. Why not just put it in your will? Grandpa Bill smiled. Because wills can be contested. People can fight over wills for years. But a quitclaim deed executed while I'm alive and mentally competent? That's ironclad. Once we file these, the properties are yours. No arguments. No disputes. We signed the documents that afternoon. He signed as grantor. I signed as grantee. His longtime attorney, Patricia Morrison, notarized everything. The following week, we filed the deeds with the appropriate county records offices. All 9 properties were legally transferred to Marcus Chen, effective September 15, 2019. The rental income started flowing to my bank account in October 2019. Approximately $8,000 per month after expenses and property management fees. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents. Not Derek. Not my friends. I kept living in my small apartment. Kept driving my old Honda. Kept working my government job. The rental income went into a separate investment account. I used it to pay down the mortgages on the properties, to build a substantial emergency fund, to invest in index funds. By 2025, the properties were worth approximately $5.8 million. The mortgages were paid down to almost nothing. The monthly rental income had grown to nearly $12,000 as I'd raised rents in line with market rates. Meanwhile, my family continued treating me like the disappointment who'd never amount to anything. The first few months after the transfer were surreal. I'd be sitting at family dinner, listening to Derek brag about his latest bonus, while knowing I'd just deposited $8,000 in rental income that morning. I'd watch my mother praise Derek for building real wealth, while I reviewed tenant applications for the Austin fourplex. Grandpa Bill and I had an understanding. At family gatherings, we never mentioned the properties. He'd ask about my work at the city. I'd ask about his garden. We'd share a look across the table that said everything we needed to say. Derek, meanwhile, had convinced my parents that he should help manage Grandpa Bill's properties. I have an MBA, he told them at Thanksgiving 2019. I understand portfolio management. Dad, you and Mom should talk to Grandpa about giving me power of attorney for the real estate assets. I can optimize the returns. My father thought this was an excellent idea. Derek has the business acumen. It makes sense. Grandpa Bill smiled politely. I'll think about it. What Derek didn't know, what none of them knew, was that he had no access to anything. The properties weren't in Grandpa Bill's name anymore. They were in mine. But I let Derek believe he was the heir apparent. Let him make plans. Let him tell his friends about the family real estate portfolio he'd be inheriting. I spent those years learning everything I could about property management. I took online courses in landlord-tenant law. I studied market trends in Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. I built relationships with contractors and property managers. The Houston duplexes were my first challenge. One had a tenant who'd been there since 2003, a retired teacher named Mrs. Patterson who paid below market rent. Derek would have raised her rent immediately or evicted her. I took a different approach. I visited her, introduced myself as the new owner, told her she could stay as long as she wanted at her current rent, with annual increases tied to inflation, not market rates. Your grandfather was a good man, she told me. You're just like him. That became my philosophy. Treat tenants with dignity. Maintain properties impeccably. Raise rents reasonably. Screen carefully, but give people chances when their stories made sense. By 2022, I had waiting lists for all 9 properties. Tenant turnover was almost zero. The buildings were in pristine condition. And my family still had no idea. At Christmas 2022, Derek announced he'd been promoted to vice president at his company. My mother cried with pride. My father opened a bottle of expensive champagne. This calls for a toast, Dad said. To Derek, who's built everything we hoped for. And to Marcus. He paused, searching for something positive. Who has steady employment. Everyone laughed. I raised my glass and smiled. That night, I checked my investment account. The properties were now worth $5.2 million. I'd accumulated $340,000 in cash reserves and investment accounts from the rental income. I was worth more than Derek's salary, bonuses, and stock options combined. But I kept that knowledge to myself. Grandpa Bill passed away on March 3rd, 2025, peacefully in his sleep, exactly the way he'd wanted. He was 87 years old. The funeral was on March 8th. The entire family gathered. Derek flew in from Dallas. Extended family came from across Texas. Everyone wore black and told stories about Grandpa Bill's life. At the reception, I overheard Derek talking to our cousin Amanda. "The estate's going to be complicated," he said quietly. "Grandpa had 9 rental properties, probably worth $5 or $6 million. I'll need to work with the estate attorney to get everything appraised and transferred." "Transferred to who?" Amanda asked. "Me, obviously. I'm the oldest grandson. Plus I have the business background to manage everything." Amanda glanced at me across the room. "What about Marcus?" Derek laughed. "Marcus works for the city. He doesn't have time to manage real estate. Besides, Grandpa and I talked about this. He knew I was the right person to handle the portfolio." That was a lie. Grandpa Bill and Derek had never discussed the properties in any detail. But Derek had convinced himself it was true. 2 weeks later, my mother called. "The estate attorney wants to meet with the family," she said. "Next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Patricia Morrison's office in Austin. Everyone needs to be there." "What's this about?" I asked, though I knew exactly what it was about. "Grandpa's will. The property distribution. Derek thinks there might be some complicated tax implications, so we need to discuss everything as a family." Tuesday, March 25th. I took the afternoon off work. Drove to Patricia Morrison's office in downtown Austin. The office was exactly as I remembered, wood paneling, leather chairs, wall-to-wall law books. Patricia had been Grandpa Bill's attorney for 30 years. She knew every detail of his affairs. My parents arrived first. Then Derek, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather portfolio. He looked like he was attending a board meeting, not an estate reading. Patricia welcomed us into her conference room. She was in her late 60s, silver hair pulled back in a bun, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "I know this is a difficult time. William was a dear friend as well as a client." My mother dabbed at her eyes. My father nodded solemnly. Derek pulled out a notepad. "I've prepared some questions about the estate valuation and tax optimization strategies." Patricia glanced at him over her reading glasses. "Let's start with the will itself." She opened a folder and began reading. Standard provisions. Some personal items distributed to family members. A few charitable donations. Then she reached the section about the properties. "Regarding my real estate holdings," she read, "I have previously transferred all properties to my grandson Marcus Chin via quitclaim deeds filed in 2019. These properties are therefore not part of my probatable estate." Silence. Derek's pen stopped mid-word. My mother's mouth opened slightly. My father leaned forward. "I'm sorry," Derek said slowly. "Can you read that again?" Patricia looked at him calmly. "Your grandfather transferred the 9 rental properties to Marcus in 2019. They're not part of the estate because Marcus has owned them for 6 years." "That's not possible," Derek said. "Grandpa would have told us." "He told Marcus," Patricia said simply. "That's who needed to know." My mother turned to me. "Marcus? Is this true?" I nodded. "Grandpa transferred the properties to me in September 2019. "Why?" Dad demanded. "Because he asked me to take them. Because I'd been helping him manage them for years. Because he trusted me." Derek's face was turning red. "This doesn't make sense. I'm the oldest. I'm the one with the business degree. I'm the one who never showed up," I said quietly. "Who never changed a light bulb or fixed a leaky toilet or screened a tenant. Who was too busy with your corporate career to spend time with Grandpa." "That's not," Derek started. "It's exactly that," I interrupted. When did you last visit one of those properties, Derek? When did you last have lunch with Grandpa? When did you last do anything except assume you'd inherit everything because you're the oldest son? The room went silent. After that initial shock, the questions started coming. What properties exactly? My father asked. Patricia consulted her notes. 3 duplexes in Houston, 2 fourplexes in Austin, 4 single-family homes in San Antonio, all transferred via quitclaim deed in September 2019, filed with the appropriate county records offices. And the value? My mother asked weakly. The properties were appraised for estate tax purposes in 2024, Patricia said. Combined value, approximately $5.8 million. My mother actually gasped. My father's face went pale. Derek stood up abruptly. This is fraud. Grandpa wasn't mentally competent in 2019. He had congestive heart failure. He was diagnosed in 2019, I said calmly. But his doctor confirmed he was fully mentally competent until at least 2023. We have medical records. We have the notarized deeds. We have everything documented. Patricia nodded. I witnessed the signing. William was absolutely of sound mind. He knew exactly what he was doing. But why Marcus? My mother asked, and I could hear genuine hurt in her voice. Why not split it among everyone? I took a breath. Because Grandpa built those properties over 50 years. He wanted someone who would maintain them, who understood their value, who would treat the tenants with respect. He didn't want them sold off and divided. He wanted them preserved. And you just took them? My father said. Without telling anyone? Grandpa told me not to say anything. He said the family would fight. He said people would try to contest it. He said it was better to handle it quietly, legally, and let everyone find out after he was gone. Derek was pacing now. So, for 6 years, you've been collecting rent? Managing properties? And you never mentioned it. That's right. How much rent? I hesitated. Patricia answered for me. The properties generate approximately $12,000 per month in net rental income after expenses and property management fees. My mother did the math in her head. I could see her calculating. $12,000 a month. 6 years. Nearly $900,000. You've made almost $1 million, she whispered. I've received rental income, I corrected. Most of it went to paying down the mortgages, building maintenance reserves, and property improvements. The properties are worth more now than they were in 2019. Derek slammed his hand on the table. This is unbelievable. I'm the one with the MBA. I'm the one who knows how to manage a portfolio. I'm the one who's never owned rental property, I said. Who's never dealt with a broken water heater at 2 a.m. Who's never screened a tenant or negotiated a lease or handled an eviction. You know corporate finance, Derek. That's not the same thing. I want to see the deeds, my father demanded. I want proof. Patricia pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of all 9 quitclaim deeds, each one properly notarized, each one filed with the appropriate county. Grantor, William Chun grantee. Marcus Chun date, September 15th, 2019. My father studied them for a long time. Then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, something between respect and resentment. You've been lying to us for 6 years, he said. I haven't lied about anything. You never asked if I own property. You assumed I was exactly what I appeared to be, a city employee with a modest apartment and an old car. I never corrected your assumptions. That's the same as lying, my mother said. No, I replied. It's called privacy. Derek wasn't done. He sat back down, his corporate training kicking in. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled, calculating. The 9 Texas rental properties are obviously mine, my brother announced. I'm the eldest son. My mother nodded immediately. It's tradition. They were trying to rewrite reality. Trying to pretend the quitclaim deeds didn't exist. Trying to appeal to some ancient notion of primogeniture. I smiled and asked one question. Who's been receiving the property tax bills for 6 years? Silence. The estate lawyer opened his folder and pulled out a stack of documents. Property tax statements from Travis County, Harris County, Behar County, all addressed to Marcus Chun. All paid in full. 6 years' worth. According to Travis County records, your grandfather executed quitclaim deeds in 2019, transferring all 9 properties to you. Patricia began. Dad froze, as if his heart dropped. Derek's face went from red to white. There has to be a way to contest this. On what grounds? Patricia asked calmly. Undue influence. Marcus manipulated Grandpa. He took advantage of an elderly man. Patricia removed her reading glasses. Derek, I've known your grandfather for 3 decades. Nobody manipulated William Chen. He made this decision deliberately after years of watching both of you. Marcus spent every Sunday with him. Marcus learned the business. Marcus earned this. By being a kiss-ass, Derek snapped. By pretending to care about fixing toilets and painting walls. I wasn't pretending, I said quietly. I actually cared. About Grandpa. About the properties. About the tenants. You saw it all as beneath you. Grandpa saw that. My mother was crying now. This is tearing our family apart. No, I said. This is revealing what was always there. You favored Derek. You dismissed me. You made it clear for 30 years that I was the disappointment. Grandpa saw that too. And he made his choice. My father stood up. We should get our own lawyer. Review the deeds. Look for irregularities. You can do that, Patricia said. But I should tell you, I prepared those deeds myself. I witnessed the signatures. I filed them personally. They're ironclad. And Marcus has been paying property taxes, maintaining the buildings, and managing the tenants for 6 years. No court in Texas will overturn this. Derek pulled out his phone. I'm calling my attorney right now. Go ahead, I said. But while you're doing that, I need to tell you something else. Everyone looked at me. In March 2020, one of the Houston duplexes needed a new roof. Cost $48,000. I paid for it. In August 2021, the Austin fourplex needed complete plumbing replacement. Cost $62,000. I paid for it. In April 2023, one of the San Antonio houses needed foundation repair. Cost $35,000. I paid for it. I pulled out my own folder. Contractor invoices. Payment receipts. Before and after photos. I've invested over $300,000 in improvements to these properties. They're worth more now because of the work I've done. The tenants are happy because I've maintained everything properly. The income is higher because I've managed everything professionally. Derek was staring at the invoices. Where did you get $300,000? From the rental income. From 6 years of careful management. From doing exactly what Grandpa taught me to do. My mother wiped her eyes. I don't understand how you could keep this secret for so long. Because you made it clear that anything I did would never be good enough. Because Derek was always the golden child. Because telling you would have just led to this. Accusations and resentment and assumptions that I didn't deserve what I earned. Patricia cleared her throat. There's one more thing we need to discuss. Everyone turned to her. She pulled out another document. In addition to transferring the properties, William left specific instructions about Derek's involvement. Derek leaned forward. What kind of instructions? William became aware that Derek had been telling people he was managing the family real estate portfolio. He was concerned about this misrepresentation. Derek's face flushed. I was going to manage it. I was preparing to. You were lying, Patricia said bluntly. You told your colleagues, your friends, possibly your employer that you had authority over assets you didn't control. William specifically instructed me to clarify that Derek has never had any legal authority, ownership interest, or management role in any of the properties. That's humiliating, my mother said. It's accurate, Patricia replied. And William felt it needed to be stated clearly. Then she dropped the real bomb. William also hired a forensic accountant to review some irregularities he noticed. Derek, have you been collecting rent from any tenants? The room went completely silent. Derek's face changed. What? In 2022 and 2023, 3 tenants reported that someone claiming to be the landlord's representative contacted them requesting rent be paid to a different account. Small amounts. $100 here. $200 there. Just enough to avoid suspicion. My heart was pounding. I'd known something was off with a few tenants' payment patterns, but I'd attributed it to honest mistakes. Patricia continued. The forensic accountant traced those payments. Over 18 months, approximately $18,000 was diverted from Marcus's properties to an account controlled by Derek Chin. Derek stood up so fast his chair fell over. That's insane. I never. We have bank records, Patricia said calmly. We have tenant statements. We have text messages from your phone number requesting the payment changes. William discovered this 3 months before he died. He was preparing to file charges, but he passed away before finalizing the decision. Marcus, that decision is now yours. Everyone was staring at Derek. My brother, the vice president, the MBA, the corporate success story, had been stealing from me. I was going to pay it back, Derek said, his voice shaking. It was just temporary. I had some cash flow issues and I thought. You thought you'd steal from your brother, I said quietly. From properties that weren't yours. From tenants who were paying their rent in good faith. My father looked like he might be sick. Derek, please tell me this isn't true. Derek sat down, his head in his hands. It was only $18,000. I was going to return it once my stock options vested. You stole $18,000, my mother whispered. From your own brother. From my own properties, I corrected. From tenants who could have faced eviction if their rent wasn't properly recorded. From a portfolio Grandpa entrusted to me. Patricia laid out the evidence. Bank statements showing the diverted funds. Text messages from Derek's number. Tenant affidavits. It was all there. What do you want to do? Patricia asked me. I looked at Derek. At my parents. At this family that had dismissed me for so long. I want an apology, I said. A real one. And I want the $18,000 returned within 30 days. With interest. And if I do that, Derek asked quietly, then we move forward. You stay out of my business. I stay out of yours. No police. No charges. But you admit what you did. To everyone. No more lies. Derek looked at my parents. They both looked away. I'm sorry, he said finally. I was wrong. I'll return the money. Patricia made notes. I'll draft a repayment agreement. Derek will return $18,000 plus 6% interest within 30 days. Marcus will not pursue criminal charges. Is this acceptable? I nodded. Derek nodded. My parents said nothing. The meeting ended shortly after that. Derek left without saying goodbye. My parents lingered, clearly wanting to say something, but not knowing what. Finally, my father spoke. We should have paid more attention to you. Yes, I said. You should have. Can we have a relationship going forward? My mother asked. That depends, I said. Can you accept that I'm successful on my own terms? That I built something real? That I'm not the disappointment you always thought I was? They both looked uncomfortable. We never thought you were a disappointment, my father said. Dad, you toasted Derek's promotion while describing my career as steady employment. You praised his stock options while dismissing everything I did. You spent 30 years making it clear I didn't measure up. My mother started to cry again. We didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. And that's fine. But now you know the truth. I own $5.8 million in real estate. I generate $12,000 a month in passive income. I maintained a portfolio that Grandpa spent 50 years building. I did all of that while you told everyone I was the family underachiever. My father cleared his throat. What happens now? Now? You go home. You think about the assumptions you made. You decide if you can actually respect me for who I am, not who you wanted me to be. If you can, we'll talk. If you can't, we won't. They left without another word. Patricia stayed behind. That took courage, she said. It took 6 years of preparation, I replied. She smiled. Your grandfather would be proud. He knew this would be difficult. That's why he made sure everything was ironclad. That's why he documented everything. He wanted to protect you. He did more than that, I said. He validated me. He saw what I was building when nobody else did. He told me once that you reminded him of himself, Patricia said. Quiet. Methodical. More interested in building something real than looking successful. He said that was rare. I felt tears starting. 6 years of keeping the secret.
6 years of being dismissed.
6 years of waiting for this moment. Thank you for everything, I told Patricia.
One more thing, she said.
She pulled out an envelope. William left this for you. He asked me to give it to you after the estate meeting. I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Marcus, if you're reading this, the estate meeting is over and you've told the family the truth. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to see their faces. I want you to know why I chose you. It wasn't because you spent Sundays with me, though I treasured those days. It wasn't because you learned the business, though that mattered. It was because you understand something Derek and your parents never learned. Real wealth isn't about impressing people. It's about building something that lasts. You chose a meaningful career over a prestigious one. You chose learning over earning. You chose substance over style. Those choices made you exactly the person who should have these properties.
Take care of them.
Take care of the tenants.
Keep building.
And don't let anyone make you feel small for choosing a different path. I'm proud of you, Marcus. I always was. Love, Grandpa Bill. I read it 3 times. Then I carefully folded it and put it in my pocket. Derek returned the $18,000 plus interest on April 15th. He transferred it electronically without comment. No phone call. No apology beyond what he'd said in Patricia's office. 2 weeks later, I heard from our cousin Amanda that Derek had been asked to resign from his company. The forensic accounting had revealed other irregularities, expense reports that didn't match receipts, client entertainment charges that seemed excessive. Nothing criminal, but enough to damage his reputation. His perfect corporate career was crumbling. My parents called in May. They wanted to have dinner. To talk. We met at a neutral restaurant in Austin. They asked about the properties, about my plans, about my life. For the first time in 32 years, they actually listened to my answers. I was wrong, my father said over dessert. I measured success by titles and salaries and corner offices. I missed what you were actually building. We both did, my mother added. We're sorry. It wasn't enough to repair 30 years of dismissal, but it was a start. I'm not going to pretend the past didn't happen, I told them. But I'm willing to move forward if you can accept me as I am. They agreed to try. We meet for dinner once a month now. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes they slip back into old patterns, asking about Derek's job search before asking about my properties. But they're trying. That's more than I expected. As for the properties, I've continued Grandpa Bill's approach. Maintaining them carefully. Treating tenants with respect. Building something that will last. In October 2025, I bought my 10th property, a small apartment building in Austin. 8 units. Good neighborhood. Solid bones. I'm following in Grandpa Bill's footsteps. Building slowly. Building well. Building something real. Mrs. Patterson, the retired teacher in the Houston duplex, turned 83 this year. I sent her flowers and told her she could stay as long as she wanted. Her rent hasn't increased beyond inflation adjustments since I took over. Your grandfather would approve, she told me on the phone. That meant more than any family approval ever could. I still work for the city of Austin. I still drive the same Honda Civic, though I could easily afford something newer. I still live in a modest apartment, though the rental income would support a much larger place. Because Grandpa Bill was right. Real wealth isn't about looking rich. It's about building assets that work for you while you sleep. It's about creating something that lasts. It's about making choices that align with your values, even when other people don't understand them. Derek's learning that lesson the hard way. My parents are slowly learning it too. But I learned it years ago, sitting in Grandpa Bill's study, signing quitclaim deeds that would change everything. I learned that being underestimated is sometimes an advantage. That building quietly is often more powerful than announcing loudly. That the people who dismiss you today might need you tomorrow. and that the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's building something so solid, so real, so undeniable that the truth becomes impossible to ignore. I own $5.8 million in Texas real estate. My family thought I was a disappointment who'd never amount to anything. They were wrong, and now they know it.